The new warbond Polar Patriots was just released, but players seem to be giving it the cold shoulder. Huh? Huh? Sweet liberty! Not my Spitz! Where do I sign? I stalk Johan on Twitter and Discord and desperately read between the lines. All that and more on today's episode, so join me on the SES Your Liberator But Worse, and let's dive on in.
Launch initiated.
Hello everyone, my name's Raul. I'd like to thank you for joining me today. We're going to go over some of the latest goings-ons and happenings in the Helldivers community. It's been a couple days since our last episode. This is episode 2 of Dive On In. And first we're going to take a look at this petition to bring Spitz back on as a community manager after he was recently let go due to his part in the PSN linking review bombing ordeal. He was kind of the iconic figure who spearheaded that whole campaign, got all those players to go and review bomb the game on Steam and kind of get Sony to change their ways, change their mandate on PSN linking. At the same time, he did ruffle some feathers with some Discord and Twitter members, being blunt to them, telling them to leave, do their refund, get out of the game, go on, move on with their life. Some players didn't like that. They were calling for his head. So it's kind of a mixed bag with Spitz. It's hard in that position when you're facing so many pitchforks not to blow up or be blunt sometimes. And I think some people are having some regrets with how things turned out. So we have this petition now at this moment. It is at 7,700 signatures. I think when I first checked this, when it first went live, it was only about 2,300. Now we're up to 7,700, and I think the goal just keeps moving. And as you can see, almost 4,000 people signed just today, and this is being recorded Thursday evening, and this will be published on Friday. So there's kind of a write-up with this posting here, just explaining the situation and how Spitz shouldn't have lost his position there. Who knows what the dynamics are? I'm not sure that Arrowhead had full call here. Sony may have, demanded that this action take place after they did an investigation. I would imagine that they really looked into the entire situation. So it's hard to say what's going to happen, if they'll even be able to bring him back on based on this movement. We will see. Moving on here. Johan saw a post about some mods that some players had made. Not even mods. They were kind of just altering the game files to make the game look a different way. All right, so I'm going to play this video for you. You'll see there's a few characters in this video. Let's see. So we've got Buzz Lightyear. So some people have added characters like Buzz Lightyear, Master Chief, Star-Lord to the game. And as the video goes on, they've also altered the enemies to look like Disney characters like Lightning McQueen. I think like a Brood Commander or a Warrior has been altered to look like Lightning McQueen. So it's very goofy. And Johan actually responded and said, this is very impressive or hilarious that these mesh swaps were done considering the game and the engine doesn't even support mods at all. And he said at some point in his life, he does want to work on a game that does support mods, because that's actually where he got started in game development, was doing mods. And The interesting thing about Johan is he will stick to a Twitter thread for a while and kind of go back and forth with the users. And so he does that here and talks with people about this, and he actually will touch on mods a little bit later. I'll show you some things as we touch on some of the other interactions with Johan that he had this week. But that was interesting. I'd never seen anything like that before. Disney characters and stuff added to the game. I think that's the first instance of that I have seen. All right, moving on, we're going to look at some comments about balance in the game. Always a heated topic here. That's the wrong one. Where are we? Here we go. So, user Zecker on Twitter says, and he even ats Johan Pilestedt, Helldivers has become unfun for me and a lot of my friends. I've put an insane amount of hours. I'm rank 80. I don't know what to say. These past months of balancing changes has made the game basically unplayable for me. Sad to see balance changes come over the priority of fun. And Johan says, hey, yeah, I think we've gone too far in some areas. We'll talk to the team about the approach to balance. It feels like every time someone finds something fun, the fun is removed. And that is so interesting to use those exact words because so many big content creators and things have said that almost that exact word for word quote recently. And that's been said on Reddit and things like that a lot. So it's interesting for him to say it exactly that way. And there's some additional discussion. Again, he hangs out in the thread for a while talking about balancing and design. And some people start kind of naming names about certain people on the Arrowhead team. And we will get into that a bit more later. But people are trying to place blame on some specific people. And we'll talk about that in a bit. All right, moving on from balance. Right before the release of the warbond, Johan put out a poll saying, and this is kind of strange that he would do this kind of the day before the warbond came out. He said, with the negative sentiment around the account linking, there's concern from the team about it being tone deaf to release a paid warbond after all that drama. So we wanted to put it out to a vote on whether or not we should release it or not. And so the question was, release it tomorrow or delay that release. 74-ish% of people said release it. 26% said don't release it. I would imagine that 26% is maybe Xbox players who don't have access to the game, would be my guess. But who knows? There might be some good reasons behind that. And of course, the standard discussion, and he again hangs out around there. But there is one interesting thing. Real Asian Robot brought up that there has been some copyright trolling over the drop theme that's used in pretty much anybody who streams the game or posts videos about the game. When you set your loadout and drop, that drop theme is going to play, right? And you're going to drop down, and I even used it in my intro to this show. So it's concerning that there's some people trying to copyright strike and copyright troll that theme, and that's going to be a problem for a lot of people. So Real Asian Robot kind of added Johan on this, and Johan took notice and was asking about what's going on with that, and it was explained further. So hopefully that gets followed up on and followed through on and taken care of, because that is concerning. All right. So we've got a few things to cover. The warbond did release today. I've had a chance to mess around with it myself a bit, at least the first 2 pages. Turns out the armor I'm so excited about, the Cobra Commander armor, is all the way on the 3rd page, unfortunately. However, the booster was on the 1st page, but turns out it's not as strong as I was hoping it would be. I watched some videos of it, and it seemed like it was really negating slows on those videos. I've used it, and it seems like it's not, but I almost wonder if it might be bugged or something, to where if you're not the person who brought it, or if you're not the host, it's not working for you. Because I've seen videos from solo players that seems like they're totally immune to slows, but in my group play, I don't seem to be immune to slow at all. So I almost wonder if it's another one of those host bugs where it's just not applying. We'll have to get a lot more volume of testing on that and see what's going on with that. Beyond that, the new Tenderizer assault rifle, quite disappointing. I personally thought it was going to have medium armor penetration, have more damage, a much slower fire rate, much higher recoil. Turns out it is basically just a reskin Liberator without much more to it than that. There might be slightly better handling, but the stats-wise on paper, it is a Liberator with a different skin, and that's pretty much all there is to it. The SMG, the concussive SMG is pretty decent against bugs. It does exactly what I thought it would do. It staggers bugs. It does less damage. It will stagger a stalker all the way down. They won't move, but you're going to use that whole clip to kill them if you even kill them in that whole clip. I unloaded a whole clip on a stalker, and I started getting toward the end of that clip, and I'm like, is this guy going to die or what? Because we'll just stand there looking at each other. He can't move. I'm sitting there shooting at him. So is it better than the normal defender? Maybe against bugs. Maybe it's a little better. Against bots, definitely not. Bots don't respond to stagger the same way, and even if they do, you need that aim. So staggering is just going to disrupt your aim. So I don't know about that defender. This really, I'm sure things were locked in before this whole debate about balance changes and nerfs and underpowered weapons and things like that really got rolling. So they might be in a state where they're primed for buffs, moving forward. So that would be very interesting. The Tenderizer really has no identity unless you just really like the look of it, or you don't want to be looked at like a noob for bringing the default Liberator. Very strange. The incendiary impact, very cool. It's still just an incendiary. It just seems like an incendiary that blows up when you throw it. Still, it's nice. It works well. The armor looks good. I really love the Kodiak armor. I like it more than I thought it would, and that's specifically because it goes with that nice digital camo cape that we got. I never found an armor that I really liked with that cape, but I love that cape. And the Kodiak armor goes very, very well with that digital ammo cape, or digital camo cape, I should say. The armors all look very good. I am very happy with the way they all look. I think they have a lot of different combinations of capes and things you can put them with. The helmets may even fit on different combinations of armor. So that'll be fun to play with and just get more use out of that. I haven't messed with the emotes yet. I've been strictly just trying to get the weapons and the armor unlocked so I can play with those. But I hope to have all that unlocked by this weekend and try everything out and get some content out on all of that. All right, so we're just going to move on to the next item here. And the next item is Johan went on to Discord, I want to say on Wednesday afternoon, and he did kind of an impromptu, sporadic kind of AMA where he wasn't answering back-to-back questions. You could tell he kind of just had Discord open, and he was kind of just watching chat and jumping in whenever he felt like it, answering this or that or commenting on this or that. And so I pulled out kind of the things I thought were cool, and we will take a look at those. So let's move on to those. So user Noel on Discord asks, would you proceed with the balancing changes from a bottom-up perspective, making the underpowered and underused guns good again before nerfing the ones that are currently good? That's something I think most players would appreciate. The top-down nerfing has been quite divisive. And Johan says, hey Noel, I agree with this sentiment. I'm talking to the team next week about your guys' feedback on balancing. And that's all he says about that. User Tao says, hey, the way you engage with the community is admirable as fuck. Thank you for what you're doing. Hope the Balance team learns to take cues from how players are enjoying the game versus what they personally want. And he says, the team is doing what they can with the best of intentions. We all want the game to be the best it can. We don't just want to do what is expected. We want to go beyond that. However, I do feel we've been falling short. User Zarflig says, is your team getting the feeling that the balance patches are forcing people into a tighter meta instead of opening up loadouts? And Johan says, the team tries to balance for varied loadouts, but we don't always succeed in getting there. User Enter Her Base says, hi, I don't think you remember, but before the game launch, I asked you if the PS5 version of the game will have improvements like variable refresh rate, 40 frames per second mode on quality mode, and you said that you were looking into it, but you said no promises. So, is that scrapped? And Johan says, hey, great accountability. With the success of the game and with everything that's happened, a lot of our plans have been put on the back burner. We are still always pursuing technical variability to provide the best experiences, but so much is added on to our to-do pile that we have to reprioritize constantly. Eventually, I hope we'll be able to get there. So it doesn't sound like VRR or 40 frames per second mode on PS5 or things like that are coming anytime soon. User Darkmoon says, the Alexis guy, bringer of balance, will ruin this game so fast. It would be beneficial for the game's future if the development team considered reevaluating this developer's role. His current direction seems to risk the game's integrity and enjoyment for players as he destroyed the game Hello Neighbor 2 by removing key features and then bailed before the release. New major order, acquire new balance officers. So before I get to Johan's answer on that, just a little bit of background here. A lot of people kind of brought up this, I don't know if you would call it a witch hunt or whatever, but on Twitter they started blaming this Alexis guy who works at Arrowhead as a balance staff member, and he participates in the Discord, in the Armory section, in comments on balance changes. They kind of blame him for a lot of what's going on with that, and they kind of point to this game Hello Neighbor 2 and the receptions and some of the negativity around that game to prove their point. Now, I don't know anything about that. I don't know if it holds true or if people are just looking for somebody to blame, but that's kind of where that's coming from, and this is the catalyst of that. But Johan has this to say about that. And he says, hey, I've seen you post a similar thing several times now. I prefer not to speak about employees on an individual basis, so I won't. But I can say that we can do a better job at providing more exciting updates and balance changes. Sam the Ham says, how about a gun that shoots pudding? And if you eat too much pudding, your stamina regen is decreased. Awesome idea, right? And Johan says, that's the best idea I've ever heard. It can also be merchandised so that you can experience it in real life. So just being a little goofy there. User Ezekiel says, any plans on adding traits to capes and helmets? And Johan says, not to capes, but I know there's a conversation on helmets. Originally, each helmet was going to have a unique HUD. So medics would be able to see health, recon could get enemy outlines, etc. But we unfortunately had to cut it because, well, we had to ship the game. That's interesting, because helmets really don't do anything right now other than provide drip, but that'd be awesome if they did something. I wish they would just have some kind of form of headshot mitigation. It would be nice. All right, user Shetty says, I've seen somewhere that you're thinking about melee weapons. Is there any news? Will I get a chainsaw to chop up bugs? And Johan says, melee weapons? What a treat. I think I saw concepts of a ceremonial saber and a bayonet somewhere. I don't know if they're in the plans yet, though. User Bean Chili says, is there still any discussion on armor shaders, or at least matching the helmet color to the rest of the armor? And Johan says, yes, but I can't talk too much about it yet. So that's great. I wonder how in-depth the shaders might go. but some more colors would be awesome, especially if we can customize the existing armor with new colors. Very exciting. User King Travis says, oh yeah, question. What is Arrowhead's policy regarding modding the game, specifically client-side cosmetics? And we talked about that earlier with people adding, Buzz Lightyear and Star-Lord and Master Chief to the game, as we saw earlier from that Twitter post. And Johan says, well, the official answer or the official terms of service is don't do it. You violate terms of service, and this is standard since the game has so many meta components that might get screwed up. And it's hard to differentiate between a client-side mod and a game that uses peer-to-peer, so cheat systems might accidentally ban you. But the unofficial stance is Arrowhead would never take action against modders that don't cause any harm. User Statue says, is there any plans for the spear not locking on to have a correct fix? And Johan says, you should hear my potty mouth every time the spear doesn't lock on in play sessions. It's been the bane of the dev team for such a long time now. So that must just be one of those issues. And if you look at the patch notes, we always have that known issues list, and some of those have been on there a while. But the spear lock-on must be one of those issues that's just very hard to solve technically. And we know they're using a deprecated engine. And those deprecated engines, they don't have support from the original creators, so they might be very difficult to solve some of those issues like that. User Scrim says, is there any news about that 177 countries delisted issue? And Johan says, sorry, no. I'm speaking to our partners at PlayStation and Valve and pushing for it to be undone. Getting the account linking took a Herculean effort, but I won't rest in my desire to have it available everywhere. So that's good. I heard they had a big meeting today, but I haven't heard anything coming out of that yet. So, all right, user Grim Pepper. Are there talks of upping the medals and sample limits? And Johan says, we don't want to up the limits because new systems will inevitably use them. And if you have too much of a head start with new progression, it will take the fun out of it, if you know what I mean. And I agree there. If you are just sitting on a huge bank of all this currency and new stuff comes out and you just dump it and unlock everything, you're not going to stick around to play the game. I've done that in a bunch of other live service games where I just had all the currency. The stuff comes out, you spend it, you dump it all, you got the new stuff, and you're like, well, what do I do now? So them keeping it low, that's probably very smart. Keeps people playing, especially when the new stuff comes out, like this new warbond. You've got to grind for at least a few days, a whole weekend to get everything unlocked. So to me, that makes sense. And that's the final question. I think that's everything I have for you guys today. I appreciate you. If you're still here watching with me, thank you so much for watching. If you like what you hear, please like, subscribe, follow. If you're listening to the audio version of this podcast, follow on whatever platform you're listening on. I do plan now, I've decided on a frequency of every Tuesday and Friday. I think that'll be great since warbonds release on Thursdays typically, and then we can catch whatever happens over the weekend, things like that. Any kind of weapon testing over warbonds we can cover on Tuesday. I think that'll be a good frequency. So thanks so much for joining me. I hope you guys like the content. Let me know in the comments. Leave me any kind of message you like. And I'll see you next time. Have a good one.